Are you looking for all the latest pro football news and content? Of course you are. Who doesn't love football? The question is, how do you get all the latest pro football news and content? There's so many different pro football podcasts on the internet. Which one do you choose? Which one is the right fit for you? Well, you go with the Cross the Middle Show, one of the fastest growing football podcasts out right now. Over the past year, we've climbed the Spotify rankings, become a show you have to listen to if you're a football fan. Find out the Eagles will go all the way with Jalen Hurts. Find out the Chiefs have enough to get back to the Super Bowl. You'll get all of our best stories for only $1 per month. All you have to do is sign up by clicking the link in the episode description box. Welcome back to another episode of the Cross the Middle Show. It's John Kuzma. We got the Eagles story and the Bengals story in this latest episode. So we're going to kind of recap what happened last night on Monday Night Football. Let's start with the Eagles game. The Eagles and the Buccaneers played in a game of two undefeated teams going at it, battling for supremacy, and we all know now that the Eagles came out on top. The Eagles are a complete football team, and the takeaway from that game is how good they are on the offensive line and on the defensive line. They dominate the trenches, and they showed just how important that is in this win, because this Bucs team isn't that bad, and the Eagles offensive line did a great job of just giving Jalen Hurts all day to throw. And when he has all day back there in the pocket, eventually a wide receiver gets free, whether that's Devontae Smith, whether that's A.J. Brown. In this game, Zaccheaus did a good job of getting open. Jalen Hurts had pressure on him, escaped the pressure, found Zaccheaus down, I think it was the left sideline, and then actually came back to a deep touchdown to Zaccheaus on a crossing route, a deep crossing route that went for a touchdown to Zaccheaus. So it just shows how deep the wide receivers are on this Eagles team, because even tonight it wasn't Devontae Smith, it wasn't A.J. Brown, it was their number 3 receiver, Zaccheaus. So they just have so many weapons, and a lot of this goes back to that offensive line, because Jalen Hurts is just he's just patting the ball back there, has all day to throw, and eventually he does find someone, and you realize how important that offensive line is, because he's going through his progressions, looking left, checking over the middle, then coming back right and finding Devontae Smith as he breaks free, checking down the seam, and then coming back to the outside to A.J. Brown for a throw. It's just so amazing what the Eagles are able to do, because they have all day to survey the field, and Jalen Hurts is taking advantage of that, did a good job, did have some moments where he struggled in this game, a couple of interceptions, but as a whole, collectively, you look at what the Eagles are able to accomplish, they're a juggernaut, and when Jalen Hurts actually has his best game, like he did in that Super Bowl, they're right there. They're able to challenge the Chiefs and almost win the Super Bowl. That's how deep they are. Definitely a team that is a contender and in the hunt. How about DeAndre Swift? Swift has been great for this team. How many times have we seen number 0 breaking free in the open field, ripping off big gains? I mean, he kept, getting to daylight, running to the right, turning the corner, getting upfield. Chopping away at the middle, just some nice runs over and over again by DeAndre Swift. And we've basically seen this the past couple of weeks. This guy has been electric in this offense. A totally different player than we've seen with the Lions. With the Lions, he's kind of like a backup running back behind Jamal Williams, coming into the game here and there because he was dealing with injuries. That was really the thing that held DeAndre Swift back, is all the injuries he had to deal with. He just couldn't quite put it all together with the Lions. It's totally the opposite with the Eagles. He's got that offensive line in front of him, opening up holes and creating daylight, and then he's just ripping big gains and breaking tackles and being elusive and being the DeAndre Swift that we were used to seeing when he was at Georgia. I mean, it's been exciting to watch. He's playing at a high level, one of the best running backs in the league right now, a perfect fit in that system, comes in, joins that offensive line, and he's been that punch that the Eagles have really needed. Kenneth Gainwell had some good moments when he was running the ball. Even last year, when Miles Sanders was there for the Eagles, Kenneth Gainwell really was stepping up, and you're like, okay, Kenneth Gainwell can do something in this offense. Well, DeAndre Swift has just taken it to a different level. He's the bona fide starter for the Eagles, one of the best running backs in the league, having a great year, and has been a crucial piece for the Eagles this season. That's been one of the big upgrades that this team has made. DeAndre Swift he's certainly delivered the goods for the Eagles. There's no debating that. Continues to have a great year for this team. The Buccaneers were really struggling to contain him, and the Buccaneers actually do have a good defense. Todd Bowles puts together a good defense for them, and they couldn't contain DeAndre Swift, which was huge because at moments in this game they did kind of put some pressure on Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield wasn't able to complete a few passes to Mike Evans in this game. Mike Evans struggled with drops. At one point in the end zone, the Eagles' defensive back basically broke up a pass that would have been a touchdown for Mike Evans. The defensive back, I think it was Sidney Brown maybe, got his hand in there and, batted the ball down. Good defensive play there. And then you look at the defensive line for the Eagles, what the defensive line was able to do. Early on in this game, it was a closer matchup. Why? Because the Buccaneers' offensive line was fresh and the Eagles' defensive line was fresh. So it was an even matchup. Well, throughout the game, the Eagles have so many good players rotating into their defensive front. Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, the rest of the guys they have there. That basically what happens is those offensive linemen don't get to rotate. It's the same guys the whole game, while the Eagles are rotating all these other great defenders in the game that are fresh, and it just wears down the offensive line to the point that as the game went on, the defensive line got better. There was no daylight in the pocket at all for Baker Mayfield. The pocket's collapsing. He's getting pressure, taking sacks, and really they're getting him off his game. They were getting him off his game, and that's why, the Buccaneers started to collapse later on in this game, just couldn't get anything going offensively, while the Eagles' offense started to get better as the game went on. Their guys started to step up. A.J. Brown, like I said, Zacchaeus in this game had a really good game. Dallas Goedert chipped in here and there. It's tough to defend this team. It's tough to stop the Eagles just because they're so well-rounded. You got all those playmakers on offense: Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, Zacchaeus, Jalen Hurts, and then you have the best offensive line in football. Then you look at the other side of the ball, the best defensive line in football. Jordan Davis comes in this game, stops Rachaad White on a run. That was a nice play. Jalen Carter stripped Rachaad White in this game, knocked the football loose right before the half, and the Eagles were able to jump on the loose football. Their defensive front is suffocating, and they're looking really good. They're probably better than they were last year just because Jalen Carter has been such a big splash for them that there's no stopping this Eagles defensive front. There's no stopping this Eagles team as a whole. Really, it's going to come down, though, to Jalen Hurts. He's got to be better than he was last night. He can't have those interceptions. When he plays, his best game, 3 or 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, takes care of the ball, that's when the Eagles are really at their best. He had those picks in this game. Devin White was able to get him. He threw another pick where that defensive back caught it right near the sideline and got his feet down. I'm not sure what defensive back that was, but that defensive back for the Bucs made a really nice play right by the sideline, jumped in front of it, made the interception downfield. So it was Devin White. It was that defensive back for the Bucs. Those guys had the 2 interceptions. Those are the plays that Jalen Hurts has to reel in a little bit. And, despite those 2 turnovers from Jalen Hurts, the Eagles still looked convincing in this game. Were still too much for the Buccaneers. And remember, the Buccaneers have been pretty good this year. So to have that convincing win against an undefeated team and a team who kept it close early on in this game, but, because of that Jalen Carter strip on Rachaad White right before the half, that's when, the Eagles started to pull away because the Buccaneers probably should have just ran the ball out and stopped the clock, but they got a turnover themselves. They were excited. They wanted to put some points on the board, got maybe a little too excited. Rachaad White cost the ball up because Jalen Carter strips him. Eagles get the ball right back. That's when, the momentum in this game really started to change, and the Eagles really started to separate themselves from the Bucs. The other game we have is the Bengals game. The Bengals offense is really impressive. And we got to see it in this game because you look at early on, Joe Burrow's getting Tyler Boyd going, and Tyler Boyd's working the middle of the field and making some nice catches. And then what happens next? Joe Burrow hits Jamar Chase, and then Jamar Chase just has an outpouring of offense. That was one of the most dominant games that we might have seen this year from any receiver, just because the Rams had no answer for Jamar Chase at all. He made so many catches, I can't even break down what happened because he did so much. He did a little bit to the right side of the field, worked the middle of the field great. I think that's where he did his best work in the middle of the field, was working the left sideline. It seemed like this guy was catching passes all three parts of the field, the left, the middle, the center, the right. Everything he was able to do just seemed to work for Jamar Chase and seemed to work for Joe Burrow. And when these two are on the same page like that, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, to the point where they're flat out unstoppable, that's when the Bengals are at the best. And it starts with those two guys, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. And remember, Joe Burrow's been dealing with a calf injury, so they're 1-2 right now. That was their first win. They're kind of getting it figured out, but they're starting to finally resemble the Bengals that are a true Super Bowl contender. And it starts with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Those guys doing such a good job of throwing and catching the football. That's their whole offense flows through them. And then you look at Tyler Boyd, you look at T. Higgins. Those guys are both basically very close to being number one receivers themselves. Obviously, Jamar Chase is the number one receiver, then T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. But it's just amazing what those guys are able to do. I mean, they were throwing the football all over the place. It's about their collection of talent with Joe Burrow and these wide receivers. And then what happens? Joe Mixon starts to take advantage of these running lanes open up because these defenses are so spread out and so used to trying to take the pass away, I guess you can say, that these little running lanes start to open up on the defensive line. And with these linebackers, gaps start to open up. And then we saw Joe Mixon rip off a big gain. And then Joe Mixon on the same drive, weave through traffic, hit a cutback, and then run to the end zone for a touchdown. Just great work by Joe Mixon. He did a good job of coming alive in this game and kind of being like the counter to the passing attack, because the passing attack was working so well that was like the left hook, and then Joe Mixon came back and was like the right hook and made, the Rams pay for it. And then on the defensive side of the ball, the Bengals are so underrated on defense. They really are. You look at like Trey Hendrickson getting a sack. You look at Sam Hubbard working a twist and getting to Matthew Stafford and getting a sack. You look at Logan Wilson in this game having 2 interceptions. Dax Hill with the big hit coming off the edge, blitzing from like the nickelback position, hitting Matthew Stafford and putting a hit on him. I mean, the Bengals are good on defense. Those two ends with Trey Hendrickson, Sam Hubbard, and then right in the middle you have Logan Wilson. That's 3 bangers on that defense that you have to look out for. And then their interior guys aren't that bad either. I think who was it? DJ Reader on that interior defensive line that was playing pretty well in this game. So that front seven, I mean, with those ends and Logan Wilson in the middle, I mean, those guys can hit and they're physical. And Logan Wilson did a good job in this game of getting the best of Matthew Stafford twice. I still like Mike Hilton over there. He can be a big player for that defense. They got the guys, and it's impressive. They all came together and they put together a solid game against the Rams. Matthew Stafford, and it's really the system that the Rams have with Sean McVay and his system, where they plug in these role players, Tutu Atwell, Puka Nakua. Those guys, they plug these guys in that are kind of role players, and they become kind of stars in this system because the system is so strong, with the play actions and those off tackle runs that they have. And once it all starts to get going, they, like I said, they work those play actions. Matthew Stafford takes advantage of it. Well, that works for the Rams, and they're always going to be competitive with that system. And even though they've lost so much talent, and they have guys that maybe went later in the draft like Tutu Atwell, they're still competitive because the system's so strong that they can plug in these other guys and they can make plays for this offense and really can find ways to contribute. I guess that's the best way you can say it. Bengals were too tough, though. The passing game, Joe Mixon, the two ends, Sam Hubbard, Trey Hendrickson, Logan Wilson stepping up, Dax Hill with the blitz off the edge. It was all working for the Bengals in this game. Bengals get their first win. I think maybe the most important storyline in this game, Joe Burrow's calf is starting to look a lot more comfortable. The rhythm and timing with the passing attack is starting to come to life. And when that happens, the Bengals are dangerous. They're going to be a tough team in that AFC North. Just because they started slow doesn't mean you can write them off, because Joe Burrow's calf looks much better now. He looks like he's processing the game really well. That's the big thing. He's processing the game because he missed some time with that calf injury and was missing reps, and, his rhythm and timing just wasn't there. Now it's back. It's all about, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, the Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase show. That's really what it's all about. Jamar Chase, one of the most dominant games we've seen all season, making catches all over the field. The volume that he put up was incredible. And, the Rams defense didn't have any answer for Jamar Chase. There's nothing they could do to stop him. He was the most dominant player on the field. Tyler Boyd early on had some catches. A little bit later on, T. Higgins started to contribute a little bit, had a catch, slid and got down after he got a first down. That's how it works with these Bengals. Joe Burrow starts throwing the ball to Jamar Chase. The defense tries to focus so much on stopping Chase. It opens up for Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins. Those guys start chipping in. And then once those offensive players start airing it out and opening things up on offense, well, guess what? Here comes Joe Mixon to make you pay on the ground, and it works for the Bengals. That's all I got for this latest episode of the Cross the Middle Show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. You guys can become a member for just $1 per month by clicking the link in the episode description box. Go check that out if you love football. We're going to keep the show going, and I appreciate you guys for tuning in.